Welcome back. Yesterday we laid up this pod mold. It was the second half. So I got it in the warming box here, and I had it probably 95, 100 degrees. So we're going to find out if this thing's going to release. So for better or for worse, here we go. So let me get this thing out. I'll sort of do what I did yesterday. I'll trim the edges and then put the wedges in it and open it up. Second thing I wanted to try to do, and I'm not sure how far along we'll get with it, but over there's a big chunk of foam. If you look over there, you see a big cube. And that cube, I don't know, it's probably 32 inches by 24. I'm not sure how long, but basically the cube came out of a billet, and we're going to slice that up into sheets, and we'll see how far we can get. We're going to try to get this foam cutter going, see if we can slice up a couple wings. Let's see. Alright, got it all nice and toasty. So here it is. What's got to happen is I've got to trim all this excess right here. And just like I did yesterday, I took half of the mold and I trimmed all the excess. Now I'm going to trim the rest of this excess. I'm going to run it right up to the edge, maybe a little bit past, into the second half. What I want to do is alleviate all the curl over, and I'm going to make a cut to where the top is going to match the bottom around these sides here. So I'm going to go over here, let's plug this bandsaw in, and we're going to run this thing around the bandsaw, and I'll probably go over there at the belt sander and I'll clean it up. And then from there, we'll try to wedge it and open it up. Let me turn on the comments. I keep forgetting chat box. So if you have any questions or you're tuned in and watching this, feel free to post them in the comments. I'll try to answer them. Might not have all the answers, but I'll come up with something for you. So let's get over here on the bandsaw. So even after cleaning up, I'm still moving stuff around. Got some kids across the street playing basketball. I think one of them took a spill. He's over there crying. As you can see, there's nothing precision about this. So the trick to that bandsaw, I believe, it's a junky old import. But what makes it work fairly well is the fact that it's got a do-all blade on it. A friend of mine at one time came over here with a do-all blade. That was custom made for the welded up for that cheap saw. It cuts really well. It's a metal cutting blade, by the way. So let's see, the next step, I'm going to put it on the old belt grinder here. So what I'll try to do here, I'll go around the edge and got this perma grit, and I'll try to clean up a little of these fuzzies. Also, it's like here with the sharp edges, I'll knock down those little shards. That'll keep me out of the splinter zone. Okay, I think that's it's pretty good. I just wanted to get the sharp edges off of it. You can always finish it up later, fine tune it. Okay. Alright, the next step is to actually find the seam where these two pieces come together. And we're going to work a dull utility knife in there. And we'll sort of go around the perimeter. Try not to push too hard. You don't want to go too far in there and get into the actual plug. Let's see if we come around this side. Look over this side a little bit. It's hard to really see exactly where that seam is. Let's work it around. Just keep working. Right there is where I had a little bit of that clay I put in that little notch. And you can hear a little popping and cracking. That's a good sign. You hear that. So there's the first look of the inside of the mold. It still needs the PVA cleaned off of it. The next trick is getting the plug out of it. This half. That's not always the easiest. Let me get a little hammer here. Might have to tap on it. The other thing you can do, that's like right here. This is sacrificial here. So I might go in there and pry it up a little bit. See if I can come in here work it loose this way. It's not wanting to budge. Let me give it a couple taps here. Be right back. Let me get a hammer and I'll rap on it a little bit or something. Take this little chunk of wood. You can see that it's flexing a little bit. You sort of go by how it sounds. What I don't want to do is drop it on the floor as soon as I get it out. So yeah, that's what I wanted. I wanted to maintain the integrity of my plug. So it looks good. Now this up here, as far as where it's molded up next to this, it doesn't matter because inside the mold there, that'll all be cut away. So it's good to have a little sacrificial spot where you can actually pry on. So let's go down here and work some of this PVA off. Now see the face of this flange where it's a little rough, you can always smooth that in, make it all blend in. But I think, you know, it's a nice rigid good mold, so I'm happy with it. Now, even though this thing sat in that warming box, it's still considered a green mold. This resin doesn't have the optimum properties until it reaches like 350. It's a real high temp resin. That's all the PVA. So this right here, I could shine it up a little bit. You know, it's pretty good. It's the PVA transferred quite a bit of the gloss. So anyway, that's the process. Between the 3 days, this is where we're at. So we've got a usable mold. Now what I'll do, I'll take these mold halves, probably put this plug back in it. Once the plug is positioned in these mold halves, I'll go through here and drill around the flange. So when it comes time to clamp the two pieces together, they'll match. So that's about all I wanted to cover with this pod. And I'm going to go over there on that foam blank. Let me check my connection here real quick. We'll slice up some slabs over there. Let's see here. Okay, so I think I'm going through. Didn't have any comments, so I don't know if the connection's good. So anyway, next step, let's get over there on the foam blank. The way this is set up, it's on the 4 foot by 8 foot table. These are the 1, 2, 3 blocks here, set up for 3 inches. So this block came out of the billet. The billet is 16 foot long, 42 by 48 inches or somewhere like that. They cut the billet in half. When they cut the billet in half, then I had 2 8 foot billets. And then once I got it down to 2 8 foot billets, then I actually sliced it into cubes. I drug this foam off of the dump trailer and I started slicing blocks off the billet, and then I cut the blocks in half. So it was sort of an involved process. It had like strips and uprights, and you just have a huge bow and you just start lopping these blocks off. At this stage, accuracy isn't really a consideration. All you're trying to do is get cubes. Of course, the farther along you get, the more accurate you want it. So if you just wanted one slab or one sheet, you could actually just put a straight edge here or whatever and slice it. If you're going to do the whole block, it's easier just to use the glass as a reference point, set your wire up, and then actually start sliding it through there. So I've already set this wire up and I tested it. I gave it the smoke test. So I like to cut it sort of aggressive where it's got a lot of heat on it, so it goes fairly quick. So we'll see if I can get through this foam. And without messing up the wire. Here's the test. I just take a piece of foam and I set on it like that, and I just do a scrap piece just to see, you know, how it's cutting. So once I'm happy with the heat, and then I'll go ahead and shove this thing through. I could pull it through, but my arms aren't long enough the way it's sitting on this bench. I try to maintain the same speed. I don't push too hard. I don't want to drag the wire any faster than it wants to cut. So I sort of look at the wire to see how much it's flexing. Of course, the spring takes up the slack when the wire heats up. And I'll do a close-up here, so that way you can get a better look at the Frankenstein setup I got. Now you can have these blanks already cut up. If you order this foam in the billet form, these places that manufacture the foam will actually cut the sheets up for you. The reason why I like to cut it myself is it gives me more flexibility. So that way, if I want a 3-inch sheet, I can get it 4, 6. You know, that way I'm not paying extra money to have it cut. And then also it gives me, like I said, the option to do something different later. Different thicknesses. Now, initially, it's sort of unruly. Sort of cumbersome at first. Anyway, that's all you need. Just you know, it's got some waves in it because the wire is sort of rough, but it's good enough for blanks. Probably could put a new wire in there. What we got in there now is nichrome wire. I think it's around, I don't know, 20 thousandths or something. So let's get this back over here. Maybe ideally I should have turned it off, but I left the heat on it. sheet number 2. See, it's got a pretty decent smoke on the wire. Let's see here. 3 inches. The lighter the block gets, the easier it is to get it through the wire. It slides easier. And depending on what size you want the blank, you know, you can lay the cube one way or the other. Since it's not square on the ends, you can actually vary the width of the sheet. By cubing it the way I do, it gives you the options to slice it this way for bigger sheets, or get more sheets on this this plane here. So I just keep watching the wire. I want a little bit of an angle on it. I want it dragging a little bit. I have these blocks taped to the glass just for a little bit more stability. I like using the height blocks, or the 1, 2, 3 blocks, for the shimming of the wire, but this whole setup could be a little bit better, I guess, but it's still flexible enough to do the job. It becomes pretty obvious when you have even a 2-car garage shop that you got to have multiple uses. You can't have one setup just to do one job. You know, otherwise it would take 4 or 5 times as much room as I got out here. So that was the idea of the bench. It was actually, okay, a glass tabletop to slab the cores, to build the warming box. I try to incorporate a lot of different things on one tool, I guess you could say. So up in the attic, I got more of these blocks. I'm going to do this all at 3. Let's just say you wanted a stab or something, you could always cut this 3 in half and make it 1 1/2. And you know, if you're doing half A wings or something, you could always cut the end off, you know. You can still slice and dice these things up. But a 3-inch sheet gives me about 80 or 90% of what I need. Years ago, you'll see the cutter here in a few minutes, but years ago I was cutting a lot of RC stuff. We were cutting 4-foot panels, so it was an 8-foot wing. And I had a cutter. It was the same cutter as I've got sitting over there, but it was just enlarged. So I think it would cut up to maybe, I can't remember. I know it was at least 4 feet, so I might have had it to 55, 60 inches between endpoints to cut these big cores. And it was they were cores for big gas burners, big gas burner RC planes. So you can actually enlarge all this stuff, just just a bigger concept. Same concept, just bigger tool. It's always good to get the door open. All this smoke and wire in here. Get a little breeze through the garage. Alright, I think I'm probably, I don't know, halfway through this block. So if I push too hard, it rocks these blocks a little bit, so I got to be careful. That's why I got them taped down. Now, I'm not over there by the computer screen. I can't see if you have any comments. I'll go over there and look real quick. See if anybody has any questions. You can see this side here. It's a really jagged cut. You know, the top here, that's jagged because it was lopped off of the billet on the tailgate of the dump trailer. No comments yet. One of the things you might notice if you're watching, if you look up there at the ceiling, you're going to see this 4-star 40. If you're looking up there and you think the tail's crooked, you're right, because it's hanging by the push rod. That was one of those crashes where it never left the ground. You gotta take it down and put another hinge on the rudder there and glue that stab back on the fuselage. Back here in that little 4-star 40 kit, the footprint that it has to actually put the stab to the fuse is pretty small. That's a weak spot of that design right back here. So we're whittling it away. Keeps getting smaller. Now what I do, if there's just like a very slight hump or wave or whatever, I'll run the sanding bar over this. And even though it's virgin bead, every once in a while you'll see some beads that didn't get steamed or cured. It's not a 100% perfect deal, but it's close enough. I'll tell you what, if you're watching this live, or I mean if you're watching this after the fact, after it's been posted, if you're still watching and you haven't fast forwarded yet, you're hanging in there pretty tough. I should have warned you when I started slabbing it. Hit that fast forward button to get through the whole thing. So part of it is actually put the video out so everybody can watch it, but I want to get this thing slabbed up while I got everything sitting on the bench to do it. So it's partly to make a video, it's partly for me to get this thing cut up. So I'm just taking you along for the ride here. The other thing with these foam blocks, I think, and I'm not positive, but I have a feeling that at the beginning and the end of the billet, the density and the purity might change. If you've ever seen the process, basically it's like sand grains. Each bead is like one little grain of sand. And they run it through a steamer. And I don't know the exact tooling or the way it works, but once it goes through the steamer, it puffs up those little grains into a bead. And all these beads go dancing down the trough with a huge blower that blows these wet beads into the billet form. And once they blow all the beads in this big box, it's corrugated, they stick together. So it looks like one more 3-inch, and then I'll probably end up with like a 2 or 1.5 inch slab at the end. I think I'm going to clean the top of this off. I'll find the low spot and I'll set this wire back up to make one more cut. And the last sheet will be a little bit thinner. Have to go over there and look at the comments. I think somebody said something. Let's see. I think I can get this is about 2 inches the way it is. I think I'll leave it. I'll just let that one go. Okay, so that's the whole block cut up. Let me go over here and see what my comments say. Yes, Sparky. Where are you going to send me the link? I think on my end I had trouble. I had trouble getting through on the Hangout the other night. Let me get this thing taken down quick. The other thing, this OBS thing, it's working really well. There's so much else to do with it. I think it's going to be one of these things where if I just keep inching through it, I'll be all right. Alright. So that's all it was. These uprights are originally supposed to go like this, and you can adjust them. They worked out better. If I pulled it, it gave me more surface area. Laid them on their sides. So when it comes time to do this stuff, I'm not saying this is the only way to do it. You just have to go through there and find out what works for you. How much space you got. But I like this setup because basically I can just tear it down and come back later, add something else to it. So Spark, if I can't get it to where we can hook these streams together up this time, I'll come back later and we'll figure it out and figure out what we want to do, and we'll hook them up together. So I try to keep, you know, the stuff in a bag, keep it together. Okay, let's see. Now the next step, see if the camera's even lined up. Let's see here. I wouldn't say that's the best angle, but it's okay. So I'll take this other variac and I'll plug it in. I got two variacs set up down here. I got one for doing what I did. And I got another one set up that just actually does the cutting bow. It's a designated variac for that. Some of this stuff out of the way. So this cutting bow, okay, it's got a switch on the bow right here, so I can actually turn it on and off from the bow. Do before I start cutting here, I want to see this bow set right on a piece of scrap. Let's see. So that's pretty slow, but that's probably where I'll get the accuracy right here. The slower you cut, the more accuracy you can get on the wire. You get, it's sort of hard to explain, but if you cut too hot, basically what happens is, if the wire is too hot, it actually melts the foam before it gets to it. Now if the wire's orange or red hot, obviously that the radiant heat from the wire your foam's going to be melting ahead of the contact with the wire, and that's what you don't want. What you really want when you're cutting foam, you want to have little hairs. As the wire makes contact with the foam and it cuts, you'll go back afterwards and there'll be like little angel hairs where the styrofoam is creating little wisps of hair, and that's where you get the accuracy. So all I do is take these lead weights and I put it on this upright, and I'll go through there and slab this core out for the wing. I'm going to show you something real quick if I can get the camera over here. It has to do with the foam core. Let me get my mold out of the way. So right here, here's the templates. On the template, I've got marked the chord, and I add the root chord to the tip chord, and that gives me the total chord. And you'll see why here in a minute, because when I slab that blank out to cut these wing halves, I'll show you why I need the total chord. Okay, I need 19 3/8. So that means on this blank right here, I need 19 3/8 this way. And it'll become sort of obvious here. So the first thing I do is just get a straight edge on the edge here. I clean off the rough edge. So here's my reference edge right here. So from that, I'll just take this square and I'll square this corner up. So at this point we should establish a 90-degree corner. Now let's say you cut this corner, it's not 90, don't worry about it. You could just go back and make another small slice. Okay, that's good right there. So now the next thing we got to do is establish what your wingspan is going to be on your wing. So I had some cores before that were cut, and let's see what they were. Okay, 28 inches and a half, 28 and a half. So what this is a USA one wing. It's fattened up a little bit. So it's like a GOXL, 28 and a half. And that's without the tips. Yeah. Now the next thing is, you don't have to worry about, going out here and measuring multiple places. As long as this is 90, we'll come out of here, we'll establish 90. I'm going to get another weight for right here. Make sure these uprights are pushed tight against the bench. Ease this core out till it's where you want it. So it's like 28 and like a 32nd over a half. Nothing a sanding block won't be able to take care of. Okay, let's get this thing cored. So basically, we've got a 90. This is our half span, 28 and a half. And the next thing will be the total chord, which I'll show you why that was important. I'll make this cut and I'll go over there and look at the comments. Well, that was good for stab or something. You know, it's leftover from a wing. Okay. So what did I say the total cord was? Okay, total cord 19 3/8. 19 3/8. Nineteen 3/8. Alright, let me see here. Yeah, Spark, I'm not sure how to get that length. I see the comment. So even cutoffs like this could be used for flaps or different things. I know it's a pain to hold on to a lot of scrap, but it's one of these things where small blocks like this can be used for elevators and stabs. Okay, so now we've got this block. This is our wingspan, okay? This is our span. Now we've got the total cord. Now, I'm going to pull these templates out of the foam cutter. The reason why these templates were over in that foam cutter is because I was setting up the root and tip ratio. And I'll move the camera over there and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So 19 3/8, if you lay your root template there and you lay your tip template here, you're going to see that it adds up. So what I do, I'm going to cut this thing diagonal. So this is going to be the root here, and the other core is going to have the root over here. So if I come over here, and basically I'm just making a mark right there. This is the root. This is the amount of foam I need. I'll rotate the core, and on the opposing corner I'll come over here and I'll mark this, the root over here. So basically, as you can see, what I'm going to do is cut this thing diagonal, and it'll be obvious if you're off. Once you cut this thing and you put the two halves together. Now if you were cutting a lot of this stuff, maybe a good alternative would be to make a top template where you just lay it on your foam. And that way you could, you know, you'd have a template to go by instead of doing all the measurements. I never did enough foam to justify that, I guess. This method seemed like it worked out all right. Let's check the tip. So yeah, we're going to be all right here. So this cut will finalize my wing blanks. Now I know this is dragging along, but it saved me a lot of time going through and doing a lot of edits. Alrighty. Now, this is sort of the moment of truth, I guess. When you take these two blanks, you line them up like this. I got a little fuzzy, I need to sand off, but you can see where these things match up, so they look good. I had to go over there and get my sanding bar. So what I'm doing is just getting rid of the angel hair fuzz. Might as well store this in the cutout somewhere. I'll forget it's in there. I'll go looking for it later. So I'm done with these things. I'll put these away. Okay. Now, I'm going to go through here and take all the fuzz off. So here's another way you can tell real quick if you got a 90. You take these two cores and you put them together like this. If they're laying on a flat bench and it's all on the same level, if this wasn't 90, it wouldn't line up. So you'd have a gap in there. Now, obviously the gap could match, it could mirror image. One could be more or less of an angle. But when you go back this way, they match like this too. So when you flip them, they still match, so you're good. So as you can tell, the farther along you get in this process, the more accuracy you try to build into the core. Obviously, when you're taking the cube off and you're knocking chunks of the cube out, you're just trying to get a chunk of thing off the billet. Now, if you do this lost foam core thing, on this setup, this foam core doesn't really rely on the accuracy of the cradle. It's hard to explain, I'll show it to you, but basically this thing, when it cuts, it comes up through the bows. It's not touching anything. If you're going to do the lost foam, you want to make sure that this cradle or this outside is as accurate as the inside. And that'll become obvious. So what I'm doing, when I slab this out, you can see like dull spots and shiny spots. There's spots that are just a little higher and lower than others. So what you want to do is get it all uniform. And even if you don't do the lost foam method where you're actually building up a wing in it, you're still using the cradles to jig it up to when you put the two halves together. So I'm just trying to get the high and low out of it, and it's not by much. And right there's a little bit of hard plastic in there. The problem is, even though it's virgin bead, you'll still have a bead that wasn't expanded. And I don't know how to get around that. The only thing I can do is if you communicate what you want to do with this foam when they process it, they could be a little bit more careful. As you probably noticed, there's a lot of dust. It's all that angel here. The other thing you can do, you can also check the tip, see if that's 90. Put you together like that. See how that gap closes up. And then also it's the same height. You got a matching tip. So I think I got some pretty good blocks here. Looks like they're matching. So the next step would be to turn on the vacuum, but I'm going to see if I can get around that. I'm just going to take some paper towel and clean it. Okay, so I checked this glass. It was probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 days ago. It might have been even a week. I lost track. I checked it for flat. Now, every time I go to an operation where I want to make sure it's flat, like if I'm jigging up an airplane or putting center lines on cores, I'll take this straight edge and I'll run it across this bench. And what I'm looking for is high and low spots. I think we're all right. I mean, it's within a few thousandths. Yeah, I think we're good. Now, I'm just going to work off this edge of the bench. Might be a couple thou over here. This is perfect. I mean, it's good enough for what I'm getting ready to do. So, clean the bench off, get rid of all the fuzzies. And this is a center line marker. So what you want to do is take your cores and you want to establish top left, top right. Okay. So you can see the core might be a little thicker right there. But what you want these laying on the glass, and we're going to put the center line on it, and we want this orientation the same, so we know that from the glass up to the center line it's the same from this side. So let's just say top left, top right. So I just put a TL, and you can make any, you can put inboard, outboard, that doesn't matter. Let's see, get my felt pen out. Top right. Top left, top right. And what you can do, you can put DL for bottom left. And BR, bottom right. Okay, so that gets your orientation from the glass. Now, next thing I'm going to do is establish the center of the core. Now, it doesn't really matter if it's perfectly in the center, because it's going to be referenced off the glass, as long as it's all on the same plane. So I'll come in here, should be 1.5 inches. So it's 1 15/16. Yeah. This might still be set up for 1.5 inches, I don't know. Let's see. Nope, I gotta adjust that. Dang it. Thought I had the right one. Huh. So I guess the best thing to do is put an Allen wrench on the tool, right? So it's always on the tool. Yeah, that's another upgrade, right? Put a little Allen wrench on the tool. So come in here and get this thing set. Hopefully it's still a good marker. I think we're good to go. So just make sure it's clean. And the amazing thing is when you end up at the same spot you left at. So that's a good thing. The other thing, when I sanded the outside of these cores, I sanded them where, you weren't going to get a rock. You don't want this thing rocking. It's got to sit flat. and everything lines up. So when you scribe that line, top left and top right have to be up. So let's see, the next step is get these templates. I got some pins over there. I need to pin these templates to this core. And I'm going to come in here. I'm going to line that center line up. The center line on this template is scored. So let me get some pins. The easiest way I found to do this is stand it on end somehow. I got these templates pretty tight. So what I mean by that is I don't have a lot of run out at the end of the cut. I've got some templates made different wings to where it's set up to actually cut the most of the radius on the core. That way you could have a molded leading edge. This template is set up for a wooden leading edge. Now if this thing doesn't fall into position or something moves as you're putting the pins, pull the pins out and reposition it. Do whatever you got to keep that center line on the center line you marked. I start at one end and go to the other and then double, triple check it. And then once I get it lined up, then I'll drive these pins home. These pins are they're SIG SH487 number 32s, whatever that means, which it doesn't matter. But when you drill these holes in the templates, just drill them with a number drill that matches your pin. And you want the pin to go through that hole sort of snug. You don't want any slop in it. So once you get that full of pins, you're going to be okay as far as the template holding true. The other thing you can do in the center line of this template that's scribed, you can actually put some ink in it so it shows up a little better. There's another video I got. It's an older video that covers everything you need to know about making these templates. The templates are a whole nother process. So once you got the templates and they're accurate, I mean, it's like a computer program. You never have to update. It'll always be there for you if they're accurate. So on the foam cutter behind me that I'm getting ready to slice the swing out on, I put some new rubber bands on it this morning. And those new rubber bands are what hold the bow together. After a while, those rubber pieces it's really free flight rubber from SIG, and after a while it becomes worn. and it starts to crack. So every once in a while I put a new rubber in there. And there's another video of me actually using this cutter. So this isn't the only video I got up of this cutter working. But anyway, I thought I'd take you from the actual block, the slab, to the cutter, take you through the whole thing here for what it's worth. Okay, the next step is to get a variac hook up to this cutter. Let's see here, I think I'm going to turn this thing around. Let's see, all I got to do is make sure I get this camera over here. Let me reposition my laptop a little bit. I like having the cords on everything. You don't get any lag, you know what you've got. But the downside of it is you're messing with the cords. Let me see how close I can get this to the cutter. I think it's pretty close. Let's see where we're at. Scoot it back a little bit. Okay, that'll pretty much cover it. Once I get this wing cut, I'll go over a little bit more of the detail of how this thing works. Hook up my wires. I got a little bullet connector down here to connect this bow up. That way I can take this bow out of here if I need to. Okay, I got the power hooked up to the cutter. Now what I like to do, I cut at the trailing edge first. Some people, they go with the leading edge. They end up at the trailing edge. I think it doesn't matter which way you go, as long as it comes out at the same spot at the same time. What I mean by that, you want to start at the trailing edge or the leading edge, and you want to end exactly at the leading or trailing edge. Alright, okay. The way this cutter's set up, I'm cutting the root to my left, facing the cutter. And it'll be explained here after I get this core cut. So at this stage I make sure that everything is set up right. I got my bow centered. Everything looks good there. I always cut my root to the left, my tip to the right, facing the cutter from the other direction. And there's one more thing I do, and it's sort of important. I take this piece of tape and I'll tape over the core right here, so that way when the cut is finished, the actual cradles, they don't fall off the cutter and get in the way of anything. So that's just a way of holding the cradles in place. Okay, so at this point, I got tension on the core. Okay, so you can see how this bow is sort of self-centering. You got to make sure the cables are going through the core okay. So once you're happy with everything, you get everything centered right, then you turn on the variac. Now what I like to do, I turn on the variac, but then I turn the power up. So right now it's on 0. So I'm going to dial the voltage up. And I keep dialing the voltage up till it starts to cut. And experience tells me I'm going to look at 16 to 20 volts. So it just started to cut. Yeah, I'm at 16 volts. So 16 was my magic number before. The only thing I really didn't check, and I probably should have before, is the wire tension. I probably could have fine-tuned that a little bit. And so I don't know. We'll see how this core comes out. And I don't know if you can tell, but it's going super slow. And that's what you want. The slower this wire goes through the core, the more accurate you're going to get. So these new hinges are working out pretty good. I've got some hinges on this door that take up some of the weight as it's falling. And I think it's allowing me to get a better cut. I won't be able to tell till I actually get this thing out of the cutter, and we'll take a look at it. I think with this core, I'll probably just sheet it and put the sheeting on it, and then I'll core it out after the fact. I think it's going to be a traditional core. I'll probably just run a light plywood spar, maybe a balsa spar with some carbon fiber on it. The template material on this cut, it's a phenolic. I think I got it at MSC Industrial Supply, 16th inch phenolic. And if you can't get phenolic, probably another choice would be to get countertop material. And let's see if we actually end the cut root or tip to tip. So what I'm looking for at the end of the cut is for these cradles to fall away. And I really can't see the bottom of the core. But what I'm looking for is the actual cradle to drop. So I can get my hook out of there. All right, let's go take a look at it. Let's see what we got here. I think it looks pretty good. So right out here at the tip, you can see where it came off the template just right when it finished. It wasn't squeezing tight, so I'll have to sand that in. It'll only take a couple little taps with a sanding block. So after looking at this core, it looks like a good core. What I'll do down here on this cutter, I'll take this rubber band right here. You can see it right here. I'm going to tighten that rubber band up. Okay, so what I did, I mean, you can tell here on this cutter, let me come around here. So if you look at this cutter here, the bow, this rubber band is what keeps the tension on the template. So what I did is I loosened these two screws. I pulled the rubber band tighter. So that'll give me a little bit more pressure on the core template. Let's get this thing lined up. The second cut, I'll give you a little bit different vantage point. I'm going to transfer these templates to the other block. The other thing that's obvious, and I've done it a few times, the trailing edge has to be back here at the 90 degree. You got to make sure the trailing edge is where it's supposed to be on the right line. I put them on backwards before. More than once, I think. Just got to pay attention which way they're putting these things on. So this lighting out here, it's very, very harsh. That's giving me a hard time to see this template. I get a lot of washout, so bright. I know there's a hole in there somewhere. So a lot of times I don't push the pin all the way through to begin with. I make sure it's where I want it. Make sure it's lined up. If it's not lined up, you can tweak a little bit, shove the pin the rest of the way in, and it'll stay locked in. It's a finesse thing. Alright, I think we're good to go. Alright, load her back up in there. See if I can get a different view. Get a top view of this cutter somehow. So it'll be interesting to see, since I made the little adjustment, how it turned out. Wires on it. So double check all your pulleys, you know, make sure everything. I've started cuts before and the string wasn't on the pulleys. And then I make sure the bow is centered like that. Get a visual, make sure that the pulleys are lined up over the wing. Put my little tape back on there. So I never changed the voltage, so all you got to do is flip it on now. Wait till the wing quits rocking there. I was doing this one time, I was out in towards the end of the garage here, and the wind was blowing and was rocking that core pretty good. So all you're looking for is a slow, continuous movement. All right, I'm ready to wrap it up here. I'm going to take these templates off. Had some company come by. My wife got home. So this one here, this second core, seemed like it came out even better than the first. I don't know if it helped by adjusting that rubber band. This one came out. They're both really good, but yeah, this one is just like perfect here. See right here, by tensioning that rubber band, I was able to get rid of that little hickey right on the end. So there, it's a wrap on the cores. Now The next step is determine whether you want to spar, what type of spar. I'll determine that. I think when I do the next part of this video, I will do the sheeting. And I think I'm just going to go with a conventional sheeted wing. That'll be nice. But whatever I do, I'll do the sheeting and then I'll core this center out after the sheeting is on. There, from block to core. Yeah, Sparky, if you're still watching, I got to figure out how to actually connect this. I couldn't find the link, so I'm looking at the chat, but there's no link, Spark. So it's too far into it to mess around too much. So we'll go through there and set it up. I'm just trying to figure it out. Thanks for coming by and watching. It was very long. This video probably needed to be actually edited, but maybe after the fact. But I want everybody to have a good